Let me remove the mask. 3 minutes to get in. I think we can start. Let me say welcome again to Dr. Munyeza and thank you so much for giving us your time to talk to us. We are very, very grateful for that. Pachishona vanoti kutenda kwakitsi kuri mumwoyo. Yeah, I am an advocate of heritage-based innovation. Professor Jiri will tell you that. So thank you so much, Doc Munyeza. I want to give Prof. Chifamba just 2 minutes, Prof, to introduce Doc Munyeza and just give us a brief introduction. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. He has a long CV. I don't think I can read everything. All I know is that he did articles. Ernst & Young, was once a financial director at Qualcomm, got bored with finance and started doing marketing. He was setting up all these pork chops all over the place. After that, he left, set up a marketing company, and then ended up at Cresta. That's where he built maybe Brand Diabo, and then became CEO of African Sun, which was managing hotels, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, South Africa. I don't know whether they had something in Botswana. And then a few years ago, he left and set up a whole lot of food outlets, Wanamag and Bean, Ocean Basket, and stuff like that, both in Zimbabwe and South Africa. Now he has moved on. He's now doing solar, Bitcoin and stuff like that. I'm sure he will tell you what else he's doing. But while he was doing all this, he was pastoring a church. All I know is he's passionate about young people. And that's what you will get an opportunity to connect with him. Got his PhD from Solusi and some other qualifications from Cornell and stuff like that. So, Dr. Munyeza.
Thank you very much, Prof. Chifamba, Prof. Jiri, and Dr. Namo, and your teams from your innovation hubs, which we've been working with the ministry to find out what the real setup is as the construction has been going on. 2 years ago, we had long meetings with Professor Murwira, who I had known very well before his appointment as minister. And this amazing vision of innovation hubs, it was a constant conversation with him and what we need to do as a nation. You know, as I start this, I'm going to present for about 30 minutes or so, and then I will have question and answer session. I really want to make these presentations long now because one, people have to log in using certain costs which are data related and cost related. Two, I have learned that long meetings and long lectures do not give much value because people lose concentration. So I'm going to be straight to the point. I would like to just start by introducing how entrepreneurship innovation has to be at the center of any wealth creation process, as well as nation building and economic development. Wealth creation is comes from a concept that says we have a territory. It's like a kingdom. It's like a nation, a kingdom. So when we say we're the nation of Zimbabwe, we have a territory and we know what our land territory is. But in order for that to survive, we have to have an army to defend that territory and protect the citizens. The third component you find in there is the citizenry, or what I would call the constituents. The fourth component is the economy. Now, those are the major components of what constitutes a nation. But I also want to say that's what constitutes an innovative idea. It has to address a territory. It has to be defended upon by a structure or structures. It has to have a citizenry or a market. And then it also has to create wealth. There has to be economic activity. So I wanted to just introduce that concept so that even as we're talking, we don't lose track of this, because all the pieces put together on innovation will go towards creating Zimbabwe a better country, but also that Zimbabweans will have a better life and better lifestyle. Better lifestyles are brought about because there's been innovation brought through by entrepreneurs who have disrupted the way of doing things to make our lives better. And that has to be sustainable. So whenever we are coming up with an idea, whenever we are coming up with an innovation, I appeal to anyone who has that innovation that is this addressing the territory, which means the geographical territory of the nation of Zimbabwe, but also looking at the region and the globe at large. But you've got to start where you are. Think globally and act locally. And then you must put in itself the innovation, the idea, as well as the structures to defend, protect that same territory, or defend the idea to make sure that it sustains the territory. You've got to make sure that it addresses the needs of the citizens. It mustn't just be an idea because you like it, because it's something that you fantasize around. It must sustainably meet the needs of the citizenry. But at the bottom line, it must create wealth. The economic factor, it must create wealth. If it's not creating wealth, it is just an idea that is passing by. And guess what? In another month or two, or in a short period of time, it phases and fizzles off. Now, we have three major aspects that are changing what we do in the globe, which is turning this whole world we know as Earth into a VUCA environment. VUCA meaning that it's volatile, it's uncertain, it's complex, and it's ambiguous. So the VUCA environment is driven by three things. The first one is the ever-changing, unstable economic environment, which has started happening over the past couple of years now. That economic environment is causing us to rethink the methods, the ideas, the structures that worked and that didn't work. The second thing is to do with technological shift. With the advent of the fourth industrial revolution, it means that the technologies we used yesteryear will not take us forward anymore. We therefore need to embrace the new and unfolding and the advent of new technologies and the way of doing things so that we are not left behind. Now, Africa and Zimbabwe indeed, it's always kind of behind, but some of that behind is not altogether bad because whenever it catches us, we leapfrog. So we need to be alert to the technological changes that are being brought about by the fourth industrial revolution. Let me just say that world nations are driven by a skewering or a bias on on intangible wealth. Now, let me just say this. If you look at a company like Apple, Apple does not own any hardware or any fixed assets anywhere. It owns an idea. It's intangible. Amazon is another one, and so forth. So what do they own? They own ideas, innovation. But if you're to quantify and say, look, let's count the assets. Let's make sure that it all adds up. These are trillion-dollar companies globally. Alibaba is another one. So the world is skewing towards a higher portion of their wealth of a nation being intangible. So developed countries, they look at the following. They look at 80% of their wealth is actually intangible. 3% of their wealth is natural wealth, natural, minerals and so on. It's natural resources. 3%. 17% is what goes into manufacturing. So when you add that up, that's 100%. But in low income or in low wealth countries, 59% is intangible. 25% is natural wealth with natural resources. 16% is produced. Now, the battle is on that natural resources. The world has moved on from you boasting that you've got diamonds in Marange to where people have now come up with synthetic diamonds which look identical to the diamonds, if not better, to the diamonds that you are digging up in Marange because of innovation. So their wealth has moved up to intangible. We fight wars. We go on forever fighting each other because of the natural resources. The developed world is not fighting anymore about natural resources because their emphasis is now on intangible wealth. Their emphasis is now on innovation, which really drives wealth creation at a faster pace than digging minerals from the ground. Nothing wrong in that we must dig all our minerals from the ground, but we must understand where the globe is going. So I just thought I'd highlight that. Now, there are unicorns. Unicorns is a strange animal with a horn in the middle. It's like a horse. But these are the trendsetters in the fourth industrial revolution that we need to understand. For me, I've listed 5 which I am investing it big. Over the past 5 years, I've been investing in this because that's not just the present, it's the future. And here we go. In the next decade, solar energy is going to dominate power in terms of energy for our industrial or domestic use. So solar is a big player as we go forward. There is a power or energy deficit, particularly in Africa. Yet Africa has the biggest portion of solar energy generation in the whole globe. Yet we have a deficit of energy. So there's something there that needs to start happening. We cannot continue to depend on fossil fuel as our means of energy. So solar is one unicorn that we need to look at. The second one is e-commerce. E-commerce is the way of doing business now. Now, this I started looking back 5 years ago, before COVID. But we know that with the advent of COVID or coronavirus, we are now looking at most of our transactions, most of the work that is being done through e-commerce, platforms being developed and payment gateways so that people can get their goods and services on demand. So that's e-commerce. For example, you can have your food at your house. You can have fuel at your house now. You don't have to go to the service station. You don't have to go to the supermarket. You don't have to go to the grocery shop. You don't have to go to the shopping mall. E-commerce is now dominating the way we do things. The third one is fintech, financial technology. which means that we don't always have to have real fiat currency, physical fiat currency, our own dollar. Now, some years back, people were crying about bank queues because people wanted to draw money. Now, I need to ask a question. What happened to those bank queues? Is it because now we have lots of cash circulating in this country in terms of physical cash? The answer is no. What has happened is that this economy has leapfrogged into financial technology. My old dad who died, my mom was still alive, they use the mobile money platforms. We all start using, we hardly handle cash, except when we're talking about a US dollar cash now, where people are asking for US dollars cash. But in terms of transactions, ZWL or RTGS, all these are now done not because you have the actual bond coins or bond notes. You can do this using financial technology. The fourth one is electric cars. Zimbabwe, with all its struggles, is ready for a disruption of electric cars. The cheapest electric cars to flood this market will take the crown. And so we need to look at that, because the globe is shifting from fossil fuel driven cars or powered cars to electric cars, because they will use both solar and also use electricity that is available at various points. So we've got electric cars as a big one that is coming through. The fifth and last one that I'm looking at and that I'm investing in is cloud computing, big data, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, meteorology, biotechnology. All these are big data technologies that will soon start displacing human intervention in our day-to-day work. Now, we can sit there and say, oh, by the way, I know we want something that will employ lots of people. The world is not going there. The world is not looking at employment. The world is looking at convenience, effectiveness, and efficiency. It's not looking at all that. It's not looking at it as employing as many people as, is that, do I have this service or goods at the best price, in the most effective way, at the shortest possible time? The fact that you've employed 10 people or 100 people, they're not bothered about that. So those are the 5 hitting future unicorns and trends that you need to look at as an innovation hub. Now, underneath this, there is always the primary industrial factors like mining, like agriculture. The way we do agriculture has to be revolutionized through technology. We must produce more because we've got now a longer life span for because of medication, because of the health services that improve globally speaking. But we are also, Africa has got the fastest population growth rate, which means that we need to feed more people. If we don't grow the amount of food that we are producing per hectare, we will continue to deplete the earth. Right now, we are having a big fight with animals, hence these pandemics, because we need more land to grow more crops, but we are now interfering with wildlife. And therefore, the virus and the virus contact that we're now having, COVID-19 is suspected to have been one of those. Now we are stuck in an era where we must produce more per hectare than we have produced in the past year or past 2 years or past 10 years. So the way we do agriculture is going to have to be different. The way we do mining is also going to have to be different. The way we prospect for minerals, we must use technology to make sure that we waste less. We produce more efficiently, more cost effectively. So those are the underlying, the way we manufacture. Robotics is no longer a thing of the distant future. Robotics is the way of now. The way we manufacture. It's going to displace. Many of us are doing degrees that will be will no longer be useful in the next 2 years, 3 years, because technology has come in. Artificial intelligence has intervened. Robots are now doing what you were trained at college to do. So you've got to de-skill, reskill, and acquire new skills. The way we provide services, for example, health services, yes, doctors must operate you, but robots are better at doing operations now. It has been proven. They are not emotional. They are using artificial intelligence. They are much more accurate. They get to places where human hands will never get to, and therefore it's going to be more effective. And other technological stem cell developments, all these things are going to change the way we see things and the way we see life. There are obviously some cultural, there are obviously some ethical issues that that need to be watched. But the whole technological stratosphere has been blown apart, and we need to start readying ourselves for a new reality. Now, in all this, we need to grow our base of entrepreneurs. And now I'm trying to zero back home, which is the Innovation Hub. There are 3 stages that will grow entrepreneurs as we go. Now, before I even go to the 3 stages, did you know that wealth for the nations, or the country's wealth, is driven by the critical number of entrepreneurs that that country has? So every country that wants to become wealthy, it has to have at the core of its own national discourse and development a structure, a process, a policy that will develop new and younger entrepreneurs. The more entrepreneurs we have, the richer the country is likely to be in the shortest period of time. Now, our education system over the years, because we're a colony, was never to produce entrepreneurs, but it was always to produce managers. That's why we have not grown at the pace we should have grown, with so much mineral base, natural resources, with so much good people that we are, that we have not developed at that pace, because generically, fundamentally looking at our basis for national growth and policy framework has been driven by our development of skills, just so that we can be good employees and good managers for the colonizer. Hence, it's very easy for us to do our education in Zimbabwe and go and work elsewhere, because the way the curricula has been designed over the years has been to develop a worker and not an entrepreneur, not an innovator even. Now, I'm excited with the 5.0, Education 5.0, that was unveiled by Minister Murwira, Professor Murwira and his team, because it has turned this whole thing upside down and made it realize that what does the market want? Now, let's start from what the market wants, and then let's make sure that it is incorporated, it's inculcated in our curriculum. Now, the advent of innovation hubs is the revolutionary one, because it is now telling our universities that do not produce graduates or graduates who are only good managers, who are good technical people only, but they must produce graduates who are innovative. And most of them should be more biased towards entrepreneurship. Now, not everyone can be an entrepreneur, I know that. So let's not go there. Let's not have that conversation, because then we're going to get stuck there, and that's not the reason for my presentation this afternoon. But we must understand that we need to start changing the way we see things. Okay, so there are 3 types of entrepreneurs, which my colleagues and I in innovation, as I was saying, there were 3 stages. There are 3 stages. So the first stage is the innovation, or the ideation or innovation hub. This innovation hub is exactly what is there at the University of Zimbabwe. It is generating ideas up to IP level, maybe before commercialization, or what I call pre-revenue. So it is developing, it is attracting ideas, innovations, and making sure that these are stress tested. They are tested to the territory, the army. I'm talking about, when I'm talking about the army, the structures that protect it. And like I gave you the example earlier on, the citizen, which is the market, and that it has an economic value. So we start with Innovation Hub. The next stage that then goes after the Innovation Hub is now to go into what I call incubation. Incubation is different from ideation. Incubation is now taking through hand-holding those innovations that are now ready for commercial launch, what I call pre or post-revenue incubation. So we need to emphasize the establishment of incubation hubs. Now, what I've noticed is that the temptation is always to make the innovation hub also the incubation hub. The two don't work closely like that. There is going to be some confusion. So there is need to develop an incubator. Now, in an incubator is now a business that is being run, but it is being handheld, established to make sure that it is sustained, it is developed, and ultimately can stand on its own. Where does this lead? The third angle is now what I call industrial hubs. The industrial hubs will feed from the incubation hub because they are now coming in. These are now industries that are now developing. These are businesses that are now fully functional. They don't need any hand-holding or any incubation. So those three stages have to be understood. As you bring your innovation to IP, intellectual property level, or to pre-revenue, it needs to then be planned into an incubator. Now, my colleagues and I in South Africa and here, we run incubation hubs. That's all we do. We take businesses that are startups. We take businesses that are still small. We take businesses that need hand-holding. We take them through for a season of a year, 2 years, 3 years. After that, with the key performance indicators showing, we release that business into industrial hub or into the market, which is what then. Now, what I know is that the Minister of Tertiary Education has also started developing the industrial hubs. But there's need for an intervention here that is called the incubation hub or the incubator that takes from the innovator and makes sure that these businesses are solid and hands over to industrial hubs, but can work across the board. So that's how it's supposed to be. Now, let's talk about the types of entrepreneurs. Types of entrepreneurs is always quite interesting for me because of what I see around. There are three types again. So the first type of an entrepreneur, these are called subsistence entrepreneurs. Subsistence entrepreneurs are generally, these are one-man band businesses. The businesses are has no real value in that it relies completely on the entrepreneur selling horticultural products, tomatoes, onions, eggs on a store, and that if they are not there that day, there is no sales. Those are subsistence entrepreneurs. Now, because our economy has become very informal, we have a lot of these. They are entrepreneurs, but they're subsistence. They eat what they kill. They do not generate enough to give to others. It is for their own subsistence. Now, there could be a confusion that these are altogether entrepreneurs that would drive the nation. No, these are just people who were supposed to be employed, but couldn't find any job. So they have to start selling wares because not everyone is an entrepreneur. So guess what they end up doing? They end up having to sell wares and products and services sometimes. So these are subsistence, and all they ever do is that they only eat what they kill. There's very little savings to grow the business because the business is confined to their own skills base and their own capacity. The second type of entrepreneurs is called the lifestyle entrepreneur. The lifestyle entrepreneur, like the subsistence entrepreneurs business, the lifestyle entrepreneurs business has no substantial value in that it cannot be sold without the entrepreneur. And like the name says that it is lifestyle, it only fits into the lifestyle of the entrepreneur. However, the lifestyle entrepreneur's business does not make consistent profits either. And as and when it makes profits, the entrepreneur feeds that profit into his own lifestyle or her own lifestyle. So you buy an extra car, you buy an extra house, you buy more clothes. It just feeds into your lifestyle. And if the entrepreneur was not there, the business collapsed. Now, this is the tragedy of Black business over the decades. Kufa kumjina business, that means business is no varavarwa. The death of the owner meant that that business is gone, finished. It was a bus service, it was a transport business, it was a general dealers, even where it says Munyeza and Sons general dealers, when the real Munyeza dies, the son just go in a particular direction and that business is now no more. Doesn't matter whether it is with sons. I always wonder why it was always sons, not with daughters. But anyway, that's not the discussion right now. But what I'm saying is that the point is that we are having these businesses running because they are feeding into the lifestyle of the individual. The third and last type of entrepreneur is the growth entrepreneur. Now, this is the entrepreneur we need for Zimbabwe. Now, I'm saying all these things to make sure that it positions your mind as we look at innovation hubs, to position your mind to say, look, what type of entrepreneur am I going to be? Or the hub itself start to define what type of entrepreneurs do we want to develop out of this innovation hub. So the growth entrepreneur's business does have value and relies decreasingly on the entrepreneur. That means it has structure, it has processes that drive the business. It may or may not be making a profit, but it has the potential to change the environment without the entrepreneur. This is what we're looking for now in Zimbabwe. And globally, that's what they look for. They look for growth entrepreneurs where that business grows beyond the entrepreneur. That business has structures and processes that would drive value that goes beyond the capacity of the individual. So those are the three types. Let's move further. What are the prerequisites of innovation? Now, I'm talking as a practitioner myself and not as a lecturer. So some of these things, I would like you to jot down some questions and I'm happy to answer specific, pertinent, practical questions, even my own experiences. Now, you know, for me, it's always easy. Here's another three things. These are the prerequisites. There are three processes. There are three types of entrepreneurs. There are three prerequisites for an innovation. Here we go. It must be sustainable, which means whatever an innovation you are coming up with, it must not just meet today's needs. It must meet future needs sustainably. And what I mean sustainably, that it must utilize environment requirements in a sustainable way, because we've got global warming. We cannot have an innovation that is destroying the environment. That's not an innovation. We cannot have the innovation that is using much more resources than the previous innovation. That is not innovation. So it must be sustainable. The tick box that you need to tick, is this meeting, number one, is this meeting needs now and needs into the future? Because it ought to be disruptive by nature, so it must make sure that the needs are not just for now. So don't worry about the intermittent needs that are caused by today. For example, let's just say there's no power, and then you just decide that, oh, well, there's no power, there's a tree in my garden, let me cut that tree and make it firewood. And says, oh, what innovation I've got. And therefore, I must now cut all trees and tell people that cutting trees in your garden is great innovation. It must be sustainable. That's not, you're destroying the environment. So your thinking must always look at market, which is the territory that I was talking about, which is also the citizenry that I was talking about in terms of the country. It must be sustainable in the territory. It must be sustainable as far as the market's needs are. So you must look not just 1 year later, you must look 5 years later. You must look 10 years later. Where's the technology going? Where are the needs in that community or in that market? So that's number one. Number two prerequisite, it must be scalable. It must be scalable. That means it must have the opportunity to grow. Ndonda, them a business at Chadzidi. You can't, I look at some of these. That's why I had to distinguish between the subsistence entrepreneur, the lifestyle entrepreneur, and the growth entrepreneur. Now, the subsistence entrepreneur. Now, you look at people who are selling vegetables at a store. They're all selling identical tomatoes, and there are 10 of them. Now, where is the growth of that business? It will never grow. They're just selling what they can. So you need to understand that, is your innovation going to be scalable? Is this business going to be scalable? Now, if it is going to be scalable, do I have the capacity to grow strong structures and processes to drive it so that it is big? It is bigger than me. That it can meet bigger markets. It can go beyond your territory. It can go beyond your own view that it is now globally used, that it is regionally used, that it is locally used. Will it, so whenever something has a growth potential, let me tell you one of the things that funders look at. They look at growth potential. Once they see growth potential, guess what they do? They put money into it, because they know they're going to get a hefty return into the future. So will it attract capital support? Now, here's one of the things that I battle with young entrepreneurs or young innovators. They're always looking for money. And I always have to wrap their knuckles and say, stop looking for money. Make sure that your idea is good enough, big enough. It is sustainable, it's scalable. Money will follow it. Now, we're always looking for money. Now, you have young entrepreneurs who are driving this. No, I'm just looking for, I wish I could have $1,000, but they have a smartphone that is about $3,000. They have shoes that are about $500. They put on hairstyles and wigs that are worth $500. So you can never, because you are now telling me that you are actually a subsistence entrepreneur or you're just a lifestyle entrepreneur. Typical entrepreneurs go low, basic. All they want is just a piece of cloth on them and that they are able to eat basic meals, but they are driving there. Most of these global entrepreneurs, you know where they started? In the garage. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Wozniak, and all these Jeff Bezos. They didn't start in a palace of offices with all sorts of gizmos working. They started at a basic. They didn't even have an innovation hub. Now, we have a Rolls Royce of an innovation hub at the University of Zimbabwe. But guess what? People are now waiting for money. We're waiting for the money. We're waiting for funding now. Once we wait for funding and then we start doing this. No, get going. Biggest innovators come from very poor communities. And what you have there is a first world innovation hub that needs a mind that is coming from a poor community that says, how do I make those lives better? The third angle here is it must be sellable. The third prerequisite, it must be sellable. That business must be sellable. Why do I always say this? Is because the measure of success in a business is that, can you sell that business to somebody else? Now, I know in the African custom, we don't sell things. Toto fataka chibata. So at the end of the day, you must ask yourself, if I left, if I showed disinterest in this, can I sell it at a profit? Can somebody else come in and run this? Can the greater world out there benefit without me being there? This is why Black business, and I'm going to hit on that, Black businesses failed because they die with the business. They die with the innovation. Now, we can't afford to do that. So why should we sell? We must be able, as an exit strategy. Entrepreneurship and businesses, when you start saying and the end on a business model, it means that you are now destroying value. Because you must be able to give it on to. I've started new businesses, sold them. I've started new businesses and they've failed. But at every turn when I've failed, I've learned a lot. Whenever I've raised these businesses and sold, I've made lots of money. So you should be able, and then be able to invest in new business. We need to do it. So, and then you must be able to get the market value. So it must be saleable. It must be, so the prerequisite of your innovation, is it sustainable? Is it scalable? Is it saleable? I want to stop here. But before I stop, there is two things I wanted to share with you, because I wanted to talk for about 30 minutes and I see that I've gone a little longer than that. But I know that we've got a longer time. I've been given until 4, I think. But I just want to train myself so that we don't just go in and go to our I don't like hearing my voice all the time. I like to hear other people's voices. One of the prerequisites for you as a person, 3 again, let me just give you 3. Number 1, you must know yourself as an innovator. Knowing yourself could be a whole book in itself, but here I have a very particular meaning in it. For instance, if you find failure or disappointment hard to deal with, then you need to be aware of this and have a plan on how you will cope with inevitable setbacks and delays that you will experience. So know yourself. If you are easily distracted, and some innovators are very distracted, they can't stay on something for too long. So if you're easily distracted, then find a way to balance this by becoming meticulous in setting goals and reviewing those goals to ensure you're on track. If you enjoy some things, but not others, then learn to find people who are good at it, the things that you don't enjoy, so that you can enjoy the things that you want to enjoy. In all cases, knowing whether you're a natural business sprinter, that is lots of quick energy early on, but fade quickly, or a business marathon runner, steady approach, which gets there in the end, will help you manage your own expectations. So the first prerequisite on you as an innovator is that know yourself. The second one is that build your brand. Build your brand. The first brand is you, then your business, then your innovation. People buy you more than they buy your innovation. When you go and present it to the market, you've got to be able to be so convinced that this thing works. And by the way you give it to the market, the way you present it to other stakeholders, they must say, wow, I want to test that thing. Because when you're selling it, it's not because they've tested it. When you're selling it, because they are trying to believe your story. So build your brand. I use the word people because people buy people because we could be talking about customer, supplier stuff and so on, because those are the people that buy you. They buy you. Your brand is much more than an image. It is best seen as a sum of all relationships and feelings that people have towards you. The key point about the brand is that it allows you to charge a premium. Now, let me tell you, I charge a premium. I'm not charging you this afternoon for what I'm doing to you. But when I go to the region and I present the same thing, I get paid no less than $5,000 for doing this for about 2 to 3 hours. I charge a premium because I know what I'm talking about, because I'm the brand that I am. So build that brand. They know what my failures have been. They know what my successes have been. Don't apologize when you go out there in the world. The world is not looking for people who feel sorry for themselves. Katika iko kechiwa nikisa msoro pasaidi kuti vanaondoona kuti ndiri humble akaunze mari manje ka. Go out there, bring out your chest, chin up, walk straight, take it head on. People will buy you first and then buy whatever you are selling. The third thing is that measure your success properly. Now, once you are doing well, you need to understand what is it that you're saying you're doing well. Oh, no, our business is doing very well. How are you measuring your success? How are you measuring that you're doing well? You know, one of the famous entrepreneurs is Donald Trump, the just past president of the United States of America. Donald Trump says that about money, that it was never a big motivation, except as a way to keep score. So Donald Trump is not worried about how much money he made yesterday. He's just worried about what he did yesterday, and then he just uses money to keep the score. How much value did it do? So most of us thought Donald Trump, when he got to be president of the United States of America, was because he loved the American people. He didn't. Donald Trump loves himself. It was all about himself. And you watch in the next 5 years the amount of money he will make. Because he says, money for me is about keeping a score. That's how he measures it. Now, you could sit here and say, but that's wrong. That's not morally right. The politician must do this. And no, Donald Trump never walked into there and says, I'm a politician. He says, I'm a billionaire businessman. You choose me at my terms. He was chosen at his terms. And he ran for 4 years at his terms. You were frustrated. Most of us are, what's wrong with this guy with Twitter? What's his problem? Why can't he be like other presidents of America? No, it was always because that's how he measured his success. Or perhaps you would have a complex share portfolio system, and that's how you made that. When my innovation starts solving these problems in the rural area sustainably, I become successful. Measure it. So measure your success properly. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to stop right there because I'd rather be dealing with more questions because I've hit you with a lot of big timber things. This is not stuff you get from a book. This is a practitioner's view on entrepreneurship and innovation.
Wow. Thank you, Doc. Yeah. Thank you so much. I have a lot of questions. Yeah, I have many of them, but of course, I'm not going to abuse my host's chair. I will also give others a chance to ask you, but first of all, I will abuse it. Okay. My first question is that in terms of, you said, Doc, that the wealth in the developed world is intangible, and yet ours is mostly tangible, I would say. And you gave us very interesting statistics there. What I would say is, can we be able to disrupt this and make the tangible wealth more important? Because that is what we are. That is what we have. That's
okay.
My first question.
Doc, that's a very simple one for me to tackle. What we need to start looking at is that we need to look at the methodology of extraction. Our methodology of extraction is still quite archaic, and it is going into medieval stages. The way we get our minerals from the ground is yesteryear methods. The way we identify them could be still yesteryear. I'm talking about at a critical mass stage. most of the people are actually collecting or doing these things using picks and shovels to dig minerals. The rate of people dying in our artisanal mining community because they are mining in very medieval methods of mining. We need to bring in technology to do this. The way we are farming, we should be able to tell when the crop is ready for the next stage of fertilization, using technology that is coming beamed satellite-wise, and that measures the level of the component of the green in a plant. And that tells us that, well, at this point, you must now start doing, there's leaching that is happening in this field. That technology is not to come. Let me just tell you, that technology is around. So all those extractive sector industry needs to be the way we actually put together what the national wealth is in terms of our natural resources or our minerals in the ground, and what is the plan to extract them, is still going backwards. So you can sit here and say, oh, by the way, I'm not suggesting that we leave those minerals in the ground, but we must extract them in the most efficient way so that we can leapfrog ourselves to wealth creation as a nation. At the moment, we are just doing one step at a time. And we're doing it the way we used to do it in 1970, the way we're doing it now.
Yeah, thank you for that. The next question is coming from Kudakusena. He's asking, you said, Doc, that when potential investors evaluate businesses, they look at the growth potential as one of the most important aspects. So he's asking, how do they measure growth potential? How can we tell whether a business idea is high growth potential or it has none?
Right. I wish I was in a classroom or a theater so that I can give you my 3 points here, 3 points here, 3 points here. Now let's start off with the 3 points that I said. I said, for you to measure it, that it's got growth potential, it must be sustainable, which means that it must not meet current needs only. It must still meet current needs, but it must meet future needs sustainably, which means sustainable means that the need is sustainable. For example, I will need electricity today, but I will also need electricity in 5 years' time. So if I develop a solar solution or a battery storage solution, it means that I must be dealing with the needs today, but I'm also be dealing with the needs of 5 years to come. But I'm also saying that it must do it with utilizing the environment in the most cost-effective way because of climate change. The next thing I said was it must be scalable. Growth, it must be, you must be able not to just feed your own little community. I grew up in the rural areas, Kwamatongo, Kunyatat, Kunyanga. So at the end of the day, if I realize that pano Kwamatongo pana vatiri vanhu 50, vanongoda madomasi 50, vanhu 50 chete, ndorima madomasi vanhu 50, vachingoguta havo ivo varivo vega. That's not growth, because vakatanga kufa, it means my business also vakatanga kumigrate. What happens? So what I need to do is to make sure that I'm feeding the next villages. Do the next villages like madomasi. Now maybe the type of madomasi but now the kind of next village so now I've got a niche market that is not sustainable. So investors look at that. Can you grow the market? Can you grow can you scale it? And then the third one was sellable. Will somebody be interested in buying a business after 2 years, after 3 years, after 4 years? And what is it that makes them buy? Is it going to be profitable? Number one. Has it got a sustainable market? Number two. Has it got the latest technology? Number three. Is it complying with the environment? Number four.
Those are the things that now are being looked at, but it must be growing into the future. I hope that answers that.
I hope so too. Yeah, before I field my other question, is there anyone with a question?
You can just field you and we will come up.
All right. Okay, Dr. Mazand. My next question is on the types of entrepreneurs. You said not everyone must be an entrepreneur, and you didn't want to go there, but can you go there? Who can be an entrepreneur, especially looking from the point of view of innovators? They are, I mean, who can be an entrepreneur?
You'll have to invite me for a whole day to your Innovation Hub so I can help you through a matrix that I've developed over the years, who can be and who can't be. But summarized this way is that it's entrepreneurship has to do with the amount of risk that you can take as an individual. Now, everyone takes risks on a daily basis. The moment you get out of your house, you're taking a risk. But most people take calculated risk at a certain risk level and threshold. Let's just say that entrepreneurs' risk level has to be above average.
Okay.
So the average is about 5 out of 10. So entrepreneurs must always be a 6 or above 5. So 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10. And the higher risk profile you take, the bigger the impact, but the bigger the pain you suffer. So below 5 is people like yourself, Dr. Nam,
Yeah.
who are lecturers. You must be able to say, well, my risk is that I've tried my best, I've taught these kids. If they don't pass, I've done my best. If they pass, that's good. Now, entrepreneurs say, if I fail, I die. I lose something personal. Now, imagine if what we did for you lecturers, because I've got to push you asked the question, so I'm going to use you as an example.
All right.
So the class fails, so your pass rate in a class is that the benchmark is supposed to be 75%. Now, if you're an entrepreneur lecturer like me, so if I come and lecture entrepreneurship at the UZ, because I want to do that, now that you've got the Innovation Hub, because there is a role of I think they call the chairman's whatever, that could be fulfilled. But for me, I would say, if these people didn't get this, for example, our Incubation Hub, we're starting with some in Zimbabwe, right? One in Norton and one in Matopos, where we bring in rural entrepreneurs, very raw rural talent. We are taking into agricultural entrepreneurs. Now, here's what we do. We put 25 of them in a cohort. We then guarantee to the funders and stakeholders there that we guarantee that 90% of these people, that means 23 of them out of the 25 will be successful business people. Even the 2 will always find out what it is that they should have done and still make it 100%. If we don't produce that result, do you know what we do? We close the Incubator Hub. Okay. We have failed. Now, if I spin it to you, so your pass rate is supposed to be 75. If your pass rate for that year is 60%, guess what Dr. Namo should do? You should resign. That's entrepreneurship. Because if I don't make money for that day, guess what my business does? My business folds.
Yeah.
So not everyone. Now you understand, not everyone is entrepreneurs. So you are not one. I urge you to stay where you are. Don't come to my kind of forte. It is a risky business. My whole life is about taking risk in every shape and form. So I'm an animal for risk. And I make some big mistakes, but I also make some breakthrough addition. And I changed my world around me. My motto is that I want to change the world around me to be a better one, which means that I take some stakes, because it is with these big stakes that we change the world. The world right now, because of revolution, is not being changed through one step on another. It is innovative. It is disruptive. So what we won't be working today.
Yeah, I just said who can take risks that you are describing. Raise your hand. I see only two. No, I said they should say yes. I see only two yeses.
There are three. There are three of.
All right. Okay. Let me give Doc Mushiri the time to ask questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Munyeza, for the wonderful presentation. I'm Dr. Tawanda Mshiri, an engineer. I just want to ask about, you talked about renewable energy, e-commerce, fintech, electric car, and cloud computing as the key things for the future. I just want to hear your view. How do you see the electric car? Do you think we can do the innovation here in Zimbabwe and come up with our own, or you suggest that we buy from the first world and we only benefit by charging the electric car, saving fuel? I don't know your take on that one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mushiri. I'm a firm believer that which has been revealed, let's not waste too much time reinventing the wheel. What we could do is to perfect it. In other words, the innovation you're only going to do, Dr. Mushiri, is that you're going to do it around the customization to your market.
Okay.
You do, the whole solar technology is global now. There are companies that are improving the photovoltaic panels. There are companies that are working on storage, which is the batteries. There's a whole new battery technology that is being driven across the globe for storing energy. There are those who are into accessories for solar and so on and so forth. Ours is not necessarily to go back into there and reinvent it, but to say, what does Zimbabwe want? How do we now innovate around the available technologies and bring in fresh technologies to leapfrog us to become a better, more efficient, and more effective user of solar?
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Mushiri, for that question. I think it's very important because, I think like we have been discussing, most likely the electric car that is out there may not be as efficient in our local environment as it is out there. So probably that's where you come in, Dr. Mushiri, to make it more efficient for our environment, and then that will be your niche as it were. Dr. Mazando, at the end up, do you still want to ask a question?
Okay, you had said that those who are not risk averse should raise their hands. So I had actually responded to that. But all the same, I'm sure. But all the same, I'm sure I may just ask.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, Doc. I really enjoyed the presentation, especially coming from the sciences. These are stuff that we hardly ever encounter in our training and in our work. So I wanted to ask a few questions based on my observations. So one of the things that new technologies tend to be very expensive, to the point that sometimes we do not have access to them because we cannot afford them. I will make a particular reference to what happened when the COVID pandemic hit. So the nation needed sanitizers. So the countries that produce sanitizers, they use very sophisticated equipment. But what we did was to just break down everything into first principles and then ask ourselves, how do we make a sanitizer? And from drums and buckets, we started making sanitizers. So there was innovation, albeit without the technology. And what I've observed around is you actually termed them as subsistence entrepreneurs. That's exactly what they're doing. Where you had a big company that has since collapsed, people are just coming in with very little technology, using their hands, substituting technology with whatever manual means they have. And they're still producing the same goods. Would that still pass for innovation to you?
Dr. Mazanda, you want me to be naughty? Okay, because you're asking a very naughty question, I'm going to be naughty. I have a saying, I have a saying that says, let's not congregate around mediocrity.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and also let's not celebrate mediocrity.
Right.
In all this, go back to the 3 prerequisites that I said to you. Number 1, what did I say? Is it scalable?
Right.
So already, when you start looking here, they're using their hands, because Spanish company broke. Now, yeah, so is it scalable? Number 2, is it scalable? Is it sustainable? Sorry, instead of, is it sustainable? So utilizing all these hands of so many people, yes, it looks like it's employing, but is this what we want? Is it scalable? And can you sell it without the people? So what then happens is that this is a stopgap measure to address a crisis. Yes, in the definition of innovation, it fits there. You know, as a lecturer, it fits in. We are being innovative. We have to use our hands and so on. That's being innovative. But we're not talking it in an entrepreneurial mindset. We're not talking about it in a transformational context. Is that a transformational method in itself? You'll be the first one to say, no, it's not. It is actually an intervention which they had to be innovative around, but this is only to deal with the current crisis. We cannot carry on like this. So what we have done is that we could easily congregate around mediocrity and celebrate it. And that is very common in African countries. I stop there.
Okay, so I was saying I had observed the same in the country so far, that people have responded to the crisis. People want to address unemployment, so they will do the next thing that can actually get them something going on. And in the process, we are having masses and masses getting into such ventures. And I think now that is what we are terming the emerging employers and the entrepreneurs. Right. As a follow-up to that, so how then can we spark the desire to go from the level at which you're operating to that level where we can actually begin to build global enterprises?
Yeah. Before you answer, Doc, I had a similar question on subsistence entrepreneurs. And the fact of the matter is that what Dr. Mazanda is saying, and you also said that we have thousands of these. As an innovation hub, as Zimbabweans, how can we utilize this mass that we have, how can we disrupt in a way that this mass can be usable and can be relevant to our growth?
Okay. Now, the tricky part about innovation, it is not committee or mass driven at its inception. It is purely what you've just done in that innovation hub. It is granular. Then you start looking at it, that is this sustainable? The moment you start answering the question sustainable, it means that you are now absorbing the informal or the unsustainable one to bring them into the sustainable. When you start answering the question, is it scalable? You will then be able to actually start dealing. So you're absorbing people more and more into the formal aspects of innovation and not the informal side of subsistence. At the moment, the innovation that is there is to survive. That is what is now driving people. Did I breathe? Did I eat? Now, that can't be what we wake up to do all the time, just to breathe. So the innovation comes in to formalize. Remember, innovation must improve lifestyles. Innovation must improve the environment that we're working in. Ultimately, it is about wealth creation, which improves lifestyles. Or it mitigates against the deterioration of lifestyles. So how do we move to there? It means that we have to approach with this granular approach. How do we nest the young lady from Nyazura, who has now got an innovation? How do we nurture that innovation without putting too many requirements around them? Because innovators are off the wall, if I can say. They're off the wall by their nature. So you can't box them. You can't put them in a suit and a tie, present yourself. All you have to look at is their innovation, and the innovation hubs must address their thinking and make sure that they keep developing their idea, process that idea more and more, more and more. And as it is stress tested, it begins to show the signs. This can be sustained, this can be scaled, this can be sold. Now, other innovators might not eventually run the business, but people just take it from ideation to IP. And they say, look, I need to run a business, but there has to be somebody who takes now from that IP into an incubator, which means that this is what I've been saying to you. I said it is Innovation Hub and then an incubator, because in the incubator might be somebody who actually just bought the IP, now wants to incubate the IP. Because the innovator, the idea developer or the idea innovator might not be a good entrepreneur themselves. They're just good at an idea. The guy who invented Velcro was just so what do I do next? He said, can I use this for putting pieces of cloth together? Eventually patented it, developed it, but doesn't run the business. He's a billionaire, multi-billionaire, but it managed to actually patent that. So we have got to look at this with an open mind, Dr. Mazan, that you look at, so there are people who are good at ideation to IP, but they're good entrepreneurs who are taking that idea and run with the risk. And that has to be separated. The problem is, there are people who can develop ideas but can't run the thing. They will actually destroy it the moment they try and run it.
Yeah, thank you, Doc. I have two people who are asking very, very specific questions. Sean, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Namo. Thank you so much, Dr. Munyeza, for your time and that scintillating presentation. I observed ever since I joined the Innovation Hub that most of the times, the term innovation itself comes with this subliminal connotation that innovation is something tangible, it's a tangible product. And in your presentation, you pointed out e-commerce, which is mostly a services-based disruptive innovation. So following that, I have two questions. How would you advise a young entrepreneur who is setting out on a services-based startup in the health sector? That is the first question. And could we have more details about the Incubation Hub and what it takes to potentially join your Incubation Hubs? Thank you so much, Doctor.
Okay, just a quick one. The first question is, how would you help somebody who wants to come again on that? Who wants to
set out on a services-based
in the health sector? Okay.
Yes.
In the health sector. So, like I said, and I'm good. The reason why I gave you these templates, because I know that you're coming from a university background. So you will understand structure. Secondly, here are the three entrepreneurs, and here are the three prerequisites. Here are the three things that are driving the world at large, which is the economy, which is the fourth industrial revolution and COVID-19. Here are the three prerequisites of sustainability, scalability, and sellability. Now, how would I advise somebody who is in the health sector or wants to develop innovation in the health sector? First of all, find out, is this a sustainable one? Is there another innovation? Or there is another, I'm just trying to improve on the current innovation to customize it to meet our current needs. So you have to understand the market demands. Everything, my friends, starts with the needs of the market. Don't come up with an idea because it sounds very exciting. Come up with an idea that says, this will definitely, and you need to be observant. You need to observe how people are dealing with their day-to-day lives. And say, I've noticed that in the health sector, daily people are doing the following. Daily people are short of the following. Daily people are having these challenges. And this I've not observed at this hospital or this clinic or at this surgery. I've observed it is the same national, because you're addressing the issue of sustainability. Then ask yourself that if I brought in this innovation, can it be grown to be big so that it meets the national requirement? Can it be grown or scaled to meet the regional requirements? Can it be grown to compete at a world stage? Now, I'm being more principled in my answering, because until you tell me that, oh, I've come up with this innovation, will it do? I'll be telling you, what have you done? Most people are just excited about an idea that just excites them, but it is not sustainably meeting needs that are growing. And also, some innovation is meeting the needs that die, meet that need and close shop. But proper ones should be meeting that need sustainably. So it has to be a need. So I can say that. Now, the second question is that Incubation Hub, we have a program that we've gone in with some NGOs in the country, driven from the European Union, that want to develop livestock entrepreneurship across the country. These are programmatic, which means they are given a certain program that is run by these principles. We come in with the intervention methodologies and programs to make sure that we nurture this entrepreneur. And we are at this point, we're looking at rural entrepreneurs. Now, there are other programs that I believe we're going to get into, which will deal with other technologies and so on and so forth, which will then look at the urbanites, so that we deal with those sort of needs. But they are programmatic. That means we are told that we want to look at, for example, dairy farming. Please come up with a program that raises entrepreneurs in the dairy farming, which is one of the programs that we've come up with. So we then implement that. So it's not us advertising to you to say, look, come, we're looking for your idea to come here. That will only come when there is a sponsor who says we are looking for entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs who will be dealing with our supply side. For example, we are going to be approaching corporates to deal with their supply side. That means they must bring innovation and technology to their supply side of the business. And some would like innovation and technology to their market side. So that's all. And they use this money that they put in the CSR pot, community social responsibility. So they put in, let's say they put in 2 million over a period of 2 years. We take that money, we bring in and then say, we are going to develop 100 entrepreneurs, 50 entrepreneurs, 20 entrepreneurs to develop these products for your business, to develop these markets for your business. So it's programmatic. I need you to understand that.
All right.
Thank you so much, Dr.
you
Munyeza.
so
That's
much.
loud and clear.
Yeah, thank you. We have a question from Tawanda, who is saying that, Dr. Munyeza, do you invest in very early stages of startups? Which stage do you start to invest your money in?
Right. At the moment, I saw that one. At the moment, like I said, I probably answered it in my previous answer. At the moment, we're driven by certain programs. So it's programmatic. So yes, in a way we do, because what we do is that we go out there and ask for entrepreneurs who have IP or what we call pre-revenue on an idea or able to run businesses in this sector. Then we work with them, then we empower them, we guide them, and then we also look at the necessary financial investment in there. So there will be programs. It's almost like as we go forward, you need to look forward to adverts on programs, and some of those will have a Racecorp Zimbabwe logo on it as we go. But it is programmatic. It is not just ad hoc, where I say, okay, fine, I want to put I want to put 5,000 into your business. Is this? No, it's not one of those. Even when we do, one of the programs we'll come up with is called Pitch and Polish, which will lead to a hub, which will be sponsored by somebody. Pitch and Polish is that we will ask entrepreneurs countrywide to bring their ideas that have been stress tested, and then we will adjudicate them. Some of you have known about Dragon's Den and things. We'll do them in a Dragon's Den process. And then we come up with the top, whatever, 10. It's almost like the idols, you know, the musical program idols, the idols for entrepreneurs. Then we look at the top 10. There will be a standing sponsor that will say, I'm going to give $10,000 for each of these for the shortlisted, the winners. And then those winners then go into the Incubation Hub for us now to work with.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I don't see anyone raising their hand. Is there anyone who has a question or a comment for Doc?
Yeah, just to say thank you, Dr. Munyeza. I think I learned a lot. When you talked about celebrating mediocrity, I think I then thought about and my potatoes, masaga, I mean, those kind of things. Yeah, I mean, that's probably, yeah, one of the craziest things that have come through our country. But yeah, thank you so much. I think I see Dr. Manasa was saying we should really invite you for a physical meeting. I think that is in order so that we can expand this for us to learn and for us to really engage further. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and God bless you. I look forward to further engagement with you and your teams. This is something that is about my life. So anytime, just make the necessary arrangements. We could come up with programs. Who knows what this could do for our country? I'm at your service. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who is that one with a hand up? Ah, all right. It's Prof. Chifamba, yes.
No, you was clapping hands. What's wrong?
Ah, you were. So there may be someone who had a hand up.
No, he was clapping.
No, it's Prof. Chifamba.
Oh, it was Peacewell. Peacewell, make it short.
Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, I'm very sorry. My network was acting up, so I couldn't ask this question earlier. But I just wanted to ask Doc, how can you move from being a subsistent entrepreneur to being the growth plan entrepreneur? Thank you so much.
I think we ended. The meeting is gone.
Oh, all right. Oh, okay. Now I wanted for us to clap, but anyway, we'll bring him back and we'll start by clapping. All right. Thank you, Prof. Thanks everyone for attending the session. See you on Monday.
Thank you.
Bye.